Well, here we are, about 10 days later after this so-called MOU was signed and executed. And the problem is the signature of somebody who has no power is not even worth the ink on the paper. Here we are. Strait of Hormuz is back in focus again. The president has spent the last 3 days launching all kinds of missiles and bombs and military strikes against Iran. The Republican Guard expected it. They know it. They see it. Every 3 or 4 days, the strait is open, it's closed. We have a blockade. We don't have a blockade. Now we have a blockade and we're going to charge a 20% fee. Look, folks, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, the other OPEC countries, other global producers, everyone did not believe the Strait of Hormuz was done. Everyone knew that the Republican Guard and the terrorists in Iran had no intention on acquiescing or giving in. This is far beyond their nuclear capability. This is about a way of life based on ideology. And these terrorists in Iran control 90 million people, and they control enormous reserves, enormous cash flow. And they have power, and people will do anything for power. And that little bitty Strait of Hormuz, they may resolve going around it through pipelines over land to other ocean vessels or ocean bodies, right? They may figure out how to get part of the strait open, and it may be open for a little bit of time. The Strait of Hormuz today will be a chokehold forever. The President of the United States cannot charge a 20% fee, or somebody's going to come up and do a blockade out in the Gulf of America and say, well, we're in international waters. We're not letting any vessels by. We can't do, and the president can't try to do what he's asking the whole world not to do. See, nobody else is going to pay 20% to get through the Strait of Hormuz because we, the United States and Israel, started the fight. We started the war. Now we're going to charge 20% for safe harbor. I wouldn't need safe harbor had we not started the war. I'm not saying it was the wrong reason. I'm not trying to second guess our country. I'm not in any way suggesting I'm not behind what we do, or I'm suggesting that what was done, we started it. We can't go charge 20% for people to come through a strait to move their cargo and equipment and products and goods and services, et cetera, and charge 20% because why? What gives us the right to do that? That's a joke. It'll never hold up in international court. What I really want to say this morning is we have a problem, Houston. The Houston problem is we have a global disruption in supply. And hear me loud and clear. We didn't go find an extra 1.5 billion barrels. We flushed all the barrels, the soft barrels that came out of storage and tanks and pipelines and salt caverns and strategic reserves from G7 and the SPR of the United States. And we gave everything we had globally into the oil market to suppress oil prices. China, they did their very best to send prices even lower because what they said is, okay, we won't put a demand on global oil. China said, we'll just pull 6 or 8 million barrels a day out of our own reserves. That'll keep the tension down because why? China cannot afford inflation. If things get inflated too much, we're not going to buy all their trinkets and trash. So what we have is we have every country around the globe figuring out how do we get some kind of normalcy in terms of energy supply, logistics, inflation, recession. We got to stay loyal to our enemies. We got to stay, I say enemies, they got to stay loyal to their cohorts. I mean, Russia's got to be loyal to China. China's got to be loyal to North Korea. North Korea and them have to be loyal to Iran. You know, that's the communist terrorist regimes. And on the backside of that, we have the Western civilization who have no spine. They don't even support each other. They don't even recognize there's a bigger intent. Again, I'm not saying starting the war is the right thing. I don't know. I'm not that smart. I'm not saying that the Strait of Hormuz is a simple logistical nightmare that someone should have figured out. Hey, what if we start the war and they simply don't open up the strait? What does that do for us? Don't worry, we got this. I can tell you, I'm just a simple guy from South Texas. It has become very clear to me there's only one way to stop the Iranian Republican Guard from doing what they're doing, and that's called boots on the ground. We had to do it in Iraq. We tried to and failed because we left too early because of the previous president. We tried to do that in Afghanistan. And there's no other way to go get 40, 50 different factions within Iran to come to one agreement because they're all fighting for power. You cut the head off the snake. Problem is the snake's still moving, and the snake wants to be controlled by somebody else. And so whoever made that potential signature, that MOU, the other 40 of them said, you don't control us. We still have weapons and drones and equipment, and we're going to shoot at our neighbors. We're going to cause disruption. We want uncertainty. We want chaos. We want everyone to know we don't need a ballistic missile. We don't need a nuclear weapon. We have a better weapon called an economic missile. And if we can economically disrupt China and other countries that need crude oil, that rely on the consistency and reliability of fossil fuels being transported out of the Strait of Hormuz, out of the Middle East, globally, or the next 2 to 3 years is going to be an economic disaster. That is so much pressure. It's better than a nuclear bomb, says the terrorist in Iran. They don't have to have a nuclear weapon to have an economic nuclear weapon, and they're using it, and they're not giving it up. In my view, there's never going to be a solution in the Strait of Hormuz. Do we unfortunately have to put boots on the ground? And that's not going to be favorable. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be deadly, and it's going to take a long time. And that, my friends, is the problem. The Strait of Hormuz today is the absolute artery for the global economy. It's the Achilles heel of President Trump. And it's not going to happen before the midterms. It's not going to happen before the election. The United States owes $40 trillion. We have an AI data boom that's going to suck up so much new fuel and new energy and new electricity and new utilities. It's going to raise gas prices. Europe's starving for LNG. We're going to have to supply it. It's going to cost more. Everything about energy is going to cost a hell of a lot more the next 2 to 5 years. So if that's all true, then what we hear from the economic pundits is all just a facade. They're telling ghost stories by the campfire. The truth of the matter is, I don't care if you get 11 million barrels out of the Strait of Hormuz, which was already on tankers in the first place, and you cleared out 200 or 300 of the 600 ships that were trapped on the backside of the strait, and you got them through. The truth of the matter is, nobody's going back in. You have worse than a supply problem. Now you don't even have loaded vessels with oil coming out that could come out. You have empty vessels sitting on the outside saying, we got to go somewhere else to get oil. But guess what? We don't get just to turn a spigot on and find another 5 or 6 million barrels of oil. The Strait of Hormuz has become the choke point of the global economy. And no matter what the economic pundits tell you, the price of oil is going to be a lot more expensive in the next 2 to 5 years, no matter what anybody tells you. And I understand, if we get some kind of resolution, I understand if somebody signs a document that might temporarily send the price of oil down. It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic because every human being on this planet every day consumes or uses or participates in a barrel of oil or molecule of gas, creating the lifestyle that we all have, no matter what the economic situation in whatever country you're in. And because that's true, the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump, the war, the Middle East, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, all of that we keep hearing in the news is in total chaos and uncertainty at this point. And everyone is trying to run their economies knowing that chaos exists day to day. Thanks for listening.